ebusia Ghana Roman father for nyinara abochenko akwako petition President John Dramani Mahama ewo Flagstaff House say galamsey no onye hu bibi na President Mahama so edi muaye emu din edi amawo mo ene he ne accountability update ahoro wo boni nyinare go ho no mo ebusia ne se wutie sa update ya wutimi hu se papa yi o baba yesa NDC fo akaso yerade ya semo NPP fo wo hifani I'm pretty sure say numa wo de esam ene plans a wo de gu form no say yetimi ye ni nyina ebe ya semo na ansana Yebeko President John Dramani Mahama so no pomoche wa mama yenti se Roman Catholic for menyi ni se omunum se ami kabintela de okane boss asem na so wan kan ye dia wo hye wono ma just wanya super obe super wono enya asem ketwa Roman Catholic fathers for nyinara bo chenko petition papa yi enna kabintela asomu enye Chese wa ye wombi wa mama answer na Kevin Taylor de minor. I mean, I will not sit here to scrutinize or to criticize Kevin Taylor because nyamye ni mkreni mi akasa metie headlines no manusi ya me kaiwe ya na me say na nkofo we say jitama na yi galamsey mo asante he ye koso na omo Ghana hon mu bia na ebusia mi nkonko tie Kevin Taylor de ne wi ye de President John Dramani Mahama de no so aso
declare targeted state of emergency in galamsey. Chairman want to mean himself with the bonnet. Chairman want to mean himself with the bonnet. Chairman want to mean himself one share obeko jail. Chairman want to me they're not all he's crying for public sympathy. I don't know friend in a manner time at 8 years. Oh this kabuas as I don't want from some mumbra. Now this is another story I want us to talk about. Declare targeted state of emergency in galamsey. Affected areas. Ghana Catholic bishops to President Mahama. You see, asofo a Roman asofo mpenifo a omo Ghana nyina omako President Mahama ho. Na omasema na ehye omkaso kumo omde ko nyina ne se. Omo se galamsey no ewo Ghana. Enti John Mahama as president no on declare places bi wo Ghana ohunu se galamsey no ho pa no on state of emergency in koto ho asofo na sama ko John Mahama e Flagstaff House no these bishops with all due respect call Flagstaff House the seat of government and ko John Mahama say for the past 9 years no mu galamsey okronim. For the past 9 years, from 2017, they never saw galamsey. Omo ehun pose nipa bi eye galamsey o Ghana da. Omo ka sokono any Bible ekuta omo. Omo ni etuatua we for the past 9 years. Omo ehun se obi eye galamsey o Ghana da. Omo da fefefe. Ade starch afa omo ntoma ne omo ntade so. Emiemia chain ape broni bi edi omo nim. Ena omo si broni na sebio already a winner yen trying to because broni you could try to asamaba and I'm say broni ni omonim na omo before na omo sua broni no esom no omo ni akire na omo nko Flagstaff House na omo kan che Mahama say afa no mada no afa no moni ate sa time na Ekufuad was no omo si rosary ama Mo Mary adoma shawoma nyankopon ne na enti na omo si rosary for 9 years no they were hailing or they were saying rosary. Now mo ye rosary wedjuma Mo Mary. Nyankopon ne ba. Adoma shawoma. Nyankopon ne na. Na omo ye sa anti na omo enhu galamsey na ye no Ghana no. Na afa na omo se eye rosary ni nyina wie. Enti afa no bo se galamsey koso. Enti omo afoka atena 207 mu. E de omo Bible atoto omo na so. Eyom hanky eto omunazo atena ka mu no seat belt aba Flagstaff House abeka che John Mahama say eye galamsey no afa no masi rosary na wie nyankopon ne na enti John Mahama onhwe Ghana bebi a gala no wo no na onfa state of emergency to so omasem nyina no in the name of Jesus but obi be say me ne hwan obi be say mene hwan ena menko kasantia Roman asori asofo mintumi na onyankopon kokroko a wosoro a ohwe akokoba atama de bie ne to eto kusua no sa onyankopon no for the past 8 years no ohwe ye nyinaye so enti as far as onyankopon nsesaye onyankopon nko bebia onyankopon ne the same onyankopon a ye nyinaye da ho ese rosary wenanim no minim se onyankopon no obehye ne ho animunyam obia odi onyankopon din ebe nyaatwom onim de eye a wanye onim papa a wanye ohu bone for 8 years a wanka ho asem a ose and suddenly wehu sa bone no otwedi apon kwame a oma ye mfrema ye home no one sa nipa no ne bedi enya me ekọ because mene wan me kra ye mbo mesu enti mene wan na mekoka se sebio na ntwi na obo hoyi na kọwe akokọ ne kon enti so ma si rosary no na so mo se nyankopon ne na Mo Mary adoma ahye ne ma na se obohu kwan na ba Flagstaff House e de assembly abeto John Mahama anima ye damase John Mahama ye listening president asema
abusia na say media asem no kra say ma anti ne yo ada ka bi ntena na obo asofofo ni dua na say but asemo I don't know, like I didn't hear say almost sorry Roman Catholic fathers sorry call this galamsey who protest be when an enkofo etu agumu twimomo mekuntan wa Accra no na afa no de o matin nsem na anyway busia mienko President John Dramani Mahama so ono so moya o de bre asofoi
Bishop's Conference. They tell it as it is. No holds back. And I think that it's good for our governance that we have organizations like yours who, since time immemorial, speak truth to power. Because as our traditional proverb says, they say the one cut in the path does not know when it's going crooked. And so I do think that you are the ones who draw our attention to the path when it's getting crooked. And I believe that for us as leaders, we must have the tolerance to accept, when statements are made showing that things are not going as well as we think. But let me begin by expressing my condolences again on the passing of Pope Francis, a very good man. I had the opportunity to meet him, and I personally was touched by the kind of persona he radiated and his down-to-earth nature and his interest in Africa. He was like virtually interrogating me on Africa. He knew so much about the continent. And also to congratulate you on the election of Pope Leo as the next Pope. We hope that he'll be able to walk in the footsteps of Pope Francis, even though looking at his background, he also comes, from a background that has prepared him for a day like this, working in South America and all that. And so I think that we are happy at the quick succession and the person who has succeeded. Of course, our hope was that one of our own would probably one day ascend to the papacy, but I think we have to wait for a little while longer. But I think that's fine. So let me begin first, and the first is our democracy and governance. We started this democratic journey in 1992 with the adoption of the 1992 Constitution. And since then, we've held 9 elections. Parties have come into office and gone, others have come and gone. At the time we began the process in 1992, there was a very high expectation that finally we had come to the end of all the turbulence of revolving doors of coup d'etats and unconstitutional governance. And so hope was high in our people that with our return to democracy, we're going to enjoy what we call the democratic dividend, meaning that economic prosperity will be spread and everybody would have opportunity to gain the advantages that the country has to offer. From 1992 to date, different governments have come and gone. And like Reverend Jemfi said, if you look at the Afrobarometer surveys and the various opinion polls that have been published over the years, you would come to the realization that the bulk of our people had started getting disillusioned with our democracy. And there was a general loss of faith in our democracy. Now, I said last year during the campaign that Ghana is not immune from coup d'etats. We have seen it happen in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger, and even though our democracy spans 30 years and over, it does not mean that we're immune from military interventions or unconstitutional disruptions of our democratic process. And so I said last year that perhaps we have the last opportunity to restore the faith of our people in our democracy. And of course, the elections came and went, and I received a very overwhelming endorsement with virtually two-thirds of parliament, and a vote in the presidential election that was reminiscent of the Rawlings times. I mean, if you won elections in recent times, it was 53, 52%, but to go to 56.55% was reminiscent of the early days of our democracy. So what it meant was that Ghanaians had bought into the message that they believed that I would be able to reset things, and we use the word reset as one of our major campaign points, be able to reset things in order to build the confidence of our people in our democracy again. And so that responsibility is not lost on me. And so since 7th January, every step I've taken is meant to restore the faith of our people in our democracy and let them know that we can lead this country in a way different from what has been done in the past. And so to try to do this, the first and foremost was the cost of living and the general hardship that Ghanaians were going through. And so that has been one of the main focuses of the administration in the last 5 months we've been in office, focusing on stabilizing the economy, focusing on reducing hardship, cutting down expenditure, bringing more accountability into government, enacting a strong fight against corruption, introducing codes of conduct to guide leaders in political office. So these are all things that we have, focused on and fast-tracked in the last 5 months. And happily, we have seen a response to the work that we've done, especially when it comes to the economy and hardship and all that. And somebody says, point to one policy that you have implemented to make the CD appreciate. And I said, one policy, it's not about one policy. The answer is effective leadership. With effective leadership, we can turn this economy around and create a better life for our people. And that is what I'm committed to make sure that by the time we finish these 4 years, we'll set a standard in government that whichever party or whichever people come into governance cannot reverse the gains that we have made in restoring our people's confidence in our democracy. And so we'll continue to listen to the nuggets of wisdom that you give us, because it makes us better, it makes us stronger. It helps us to do what the Ghanaian people, have given us the mandate to do. And considering that you are with the people because you shepherd them at the grassroots, you are better able to give us feedback than when you are cocooned in the presidency and you don't have the opportunity to hear firsthand, what your congregations are saying. So I want to thank you for, this message. And I can assure you, we'll take it and we'll look at it and we would implement some of the issues that you have said, with some that might require a little more dialogue between us and you in order that we get the optimum mode in which we can implement some of the things that you said. But since taking office, we also have been trying to hold people accountable for things that were done in the past, but at the same time with an eye to letting our own appointees know that what we're doing to try to establish accountability for the people of Ghana we shall implement in the event that our own people get involved in the issues that we are dealing with. And so we set up an oral committee. There were more than 2,000 memoranda received, and almost 33 cases were identified. And so this report in this very room was handed over to me, and I handed it over to the Attorney General. And they've set up investigative teams that are looking into all of these cases. And when they prepare the dockets, then the cases will go for prosecution. But like I said, Aba Yedibo Tichi, Rowling said at the Homad Bang, or something like that. But I think Aba Yedibo Tichi, Yedibo Bang. So if Techi is stripped with the cane, you must also stand by, knowing that if you do the same thing Techi did, you will also see the same punishment. So we're committed to accountability. We're committed to the fight against corruption. There are a few issues that we focused on in terms of our governance and democracy. And the first one was the vexed issue of the constitutional review process. It had been started by Professor Jonathan Mills, because it was a campaign promise he made. Having practiced our constitution since 1992, it was obvious that there was a need to fine-tune it to meet the current times. At the time this constitution was written in 1992, who could have anticipated that we'll have artificial intelligence, would have, all kinds of difficult issues, fintechs and all the things that have happened. Our constitution did not take those into consideration. Times have changed, and so we need to look at that constitution again and adapt it to the 21st century and the current world in which we live. For instance, in 1992, our constitution writers knew the, what do they call that old telephone, the one you dial, the fixed line. And so if the president traveled, the only way you could get him if he was in his hotel, and you use the fixed line, from fixed line to fixed line, to be able to talk to him. Today, we have Zoom conferences, we have WhatsApps, we have all kinds of means of continuing to communicate in real time. And so the constitution writer said, if the president travels, he has to hand over to the vice as acting president. If the vice travels, he has to hand over to the Speaker of Parliament. As if the president has become incapacitated because he's out of the jurisdiction. I just made a short trip to Lome I was there for 6 hours and back. And they were threatening to impeach me because my vice president was not here. But in all times, I was in touch with national security. I was in touch with my ministers and everybody. I'm just giving this as an example of how the world has moved on. And so it became necessary for us to set up a national constitutional review committee. And we gave as source documents the Fiajo Committee report, including the white paper that was issued by the Atamils government. And then we also gave the reports of the Akufo-Addo administration. They also did a constitutional review, and there was a report. It was handed over to me in December after the election. And so all those were handed over to the review committee. And we said they should synthesize all the recommendations made in these reports and then come up with a recommendation on how we move forward with the constitutional review. And so we expect that in August, they would present their final recommendations, and when they do, we'll make it public so that the whole country knows what it is, and then they're going to bring the report with a roadmap for implementation. So we hope that we're going to be able to build, consensus across political party, religious lines to be able to move those amendments and get a more dynamic living constitution for our people. The next issue I would discuss is to do with school educational system. So how to reskill them and provide them with the technical skills to go into the world of work is something that we need to look at. And so one of the things we did was to set up the National Educational Review Committee, which has since started its consultations and done its rounds. And it will present its report too, I think, at the end of June. And if it does, we will make that public too, and we'll discuss it. I remember that before the Educational Review Committee started its work, the issue about management of schools, especially missionary schools, came up. And I had the opportunity at the opening conference, I think Reverend Fion was there, to advocate and to advise that our faith-based organizations should present a position paper to the National Review Committee so that they can capture your recommendations in their final report. And whatever recommendations they give, we're willing to sit with you and implement those recommendations together. So I'm happy that in your presentation, you reiterated some of the issues that have to do with the management of our schools. I think it's important because I guess that the breakdown of our values and our morals is creating some issues in our schools. I mean, you find young people going to schools with guns. There have been a few incidents where, incidents with guns have occurred in our public schools. And there's the incident of a girl who's almost lost her eyesight because of something like that. And so what do we do about the curriculum? What do we do about moral education? What do we do about discipline? What do we do about teacher absenteeism? The Inspectorate Division of the Education Service is not able to be everywhere to make sure that teachers are in school and all that. So how can we collaborate with the churches, to be able to find out whether the teachers who have been posted to this school are actually going to school and teaching? And I think that collaboration between us in that could, bring down the issue of teacher absenteeism and also make sure that the teacher is doing the actual work that he was asked to do. So there's a lot that we can do together in the education space. And I think that after doing something the same way for so many years, the time has come for us to look at it all over again. And so we're happy to do that. With regards to elections and electoral violence, in recent times, in 2020, we registered about 8 deaths, and it had come from the dress rehearsal of Ayawaso West Wuogon. We had said that Ayawaso West Wuogon was a dress rehearsal, and that if the people who were involved were not punished and sanctioned, we'll see a repetition of it in 2020. And it happened. In 2020, 8 of our compatriots died just going about their civic duty. And again, impunity. No investigation was carried out. Hardly any compensation to the families who lost their victims. And so it wasn't surprising that in 2024, again, we lost, I think, 5 of our compatriots, in different incidents across the country. And so we need to put an end to impunity. I believe that persons responsible for murdering these people must be identified, investigated, and prosecuted so that people will know that there comes a consequence with indulging in electoral violence. We also, you raised the issue of galamsey, illegal small-scale mining. I'll just say a little about it, and then maybe I'll invite my sister here to come and give us some more information. But I must say that we're engaged in the fight. It's a very complex fight. Unfortunately, because of the lack of economic opportunity, a lot of our young people who are unskilled have found illegal small-scale mining as an easy avenue to gain employment and be able to make an income. So as I speak, it is estimated that anything between 1.5 million and above of our people are involved in that sector, either in artisanal small-scale mining or in working for small-scale mining companies or doing just what they call galamsey. Now, there's a distinction there. Small-scale mining by itself is not unlawful. It is recognized by the law, and it says it's reserved for only Ghanaians. The complication has been the foreigners who invaded the space and the new equipment that they brought that is able to destroy a huge acreage in a short time. In the past, our young people with pickaxes and axes will go and dig somewhere small and scrape somewhere and get a few nuggets of gold and sell and make some money. Then they brought excavators into it, and they brought what they call chamfan machines. That was the beginning of our troubles. And those equipment come mostly from a certain country. And so we started to see large-scale degradation of our environment. We have 288 forest reserves in this country that are declared reserves officially. And out of the 288, 44 of them have been encroached. When I got a briefing, I very naively asked, why? What of the other two? How many left? How many left if it's 44? Something, 200 and something. I said, why haven't they encroached in those? And I mean, the guy could virtually have told me, because there's no gold in them, stupid. So our luck with the other forest reserves that have not been encroached is because there's no gold in those forest reserves. But the 44 that have gold under those trees are, attractive magnets for illegal small-scale mining. So of all these 44, there were 9 that were designated red zones. It means that there were no-go areas. The security services couldn't go into them. The forest guards could not go into those reserves because the people there were armed to the teeth, and anybody who went, you were in danger of your life. Several journalists went and were, giving a severe beating and almost lost their lives. And so we decided to take it step by step. So for the 9 red zone forest reserves, we identified them, and I'm happy to say that 7 of them have been cleared, and the illegal miners in those forest reserves have been taken out. There are 2 more, Desiri and Ayen Sano or something, Asinayo, of the 9 red zones that we are yet to clear. If we clear them, then it means that the 9 red zones have been dealt with, and they have been the most decimated of all the forest reserves. But then it still means that we have all the other ones to do. And in the past, what has happened is when the security services have cleared the reserves, they cannot stay there forever. As soon as they move out, the illegal miners come in. But we've adopted a method where after they finish clearing the reserves, we're able to keep a force there to deter them and have a rapid deployment force on standby, so that in the event that they see anybody coming into the reserve, they call for reinforcement and they go there immediately and seize the excavators. We've seized almost 200 excavators. I cannot tell the exact number. And we've destroyed many chamfan machines, and we continue the battle. Then other focus for us is the mining on the water bodies, because that is what is polluting the Pra River and the other Birim and others. And so we've started with the recruitment of the water guards. Their duty will be to patrol the rivers and destroy any equipment that is found, mining on the river. Recently, you must have seen the video of a big, dredger, mining dredger that was set on fire, on one of the rivers. That is the beginning of the work of the water guards. Happily, the water guards are drawn from the communities along the river, who are the ones who benefit from the river. And so they have a better incentive to help in the fight against the pollution of their rivers. Small-scale mining is done in Canada, is done in Australia, is done in many places. But we need to train our people to use the technology that makes it sustainable. In many places, they map out the area where the mining is going to be done. The first thing they do is they do what they call a leach dam. You excavate a place, you line it with plastic material, and then you set up your machine for washing the gravels. And so you dig the gravels, you wash, and then you catch the water in the dam that you excavated. And so the chemicals that are in the water and others do not go into the soil and do not go into the water. Now, when you finish, there's a product that you put in the water, and it will take out any toxins or anything that is in that water. And you can pump the water back into the environment without any pollution. And then when you finish, you must level the ground. There's a kind of fertilizer, it's called an organic accelerator or something. They spray it on the ground, and they grow crops on the land. You come back in 5 years, you won't believe that any mining took place on that land. And so we talk about the gold board, and people just focus on the part of the gold board's responsibility where they're buying gold and exporting. But the other, if you read the law, part of the gold board's responsibilities is to work with small-scale miners who are compliant, to give them the technology and assistance to be able to do mining sustainably. And in that, there's best practice. There are consultants. Many of our development partners have offered to work with the gold board to enroll and enlist the small-scale miners and teach them sustainable mining. One of the things that Reverend Jemfi raised in his presentation was the issue of a reclamation bond. We don't charge reclamation bond to small-scale mining companies. We do it for the big companies. But it's time for us to bring a reclamation bond to the small-scale mining community so that some of the revenue they get from the gold is put into that bond. And if they finish and they reclaim the land, their money is refunded to them. If they finish and they don't reclaim the land, then that money will be used to contract people who will come and do the reclamation for us. So that's something that we will take on board. But currently, the statistics we have is 16% of our forest reserves have been destroyed and encroached upon. It will need both reclamation and rehabilitation of the forest. And we are intending to do that under the carbon credit system, because if you reclaim mined lands and you restore forests, you can claim it under carbon credits. And that will give us more money to reclaim